Conversations in the QC is sponsored by Accentra Credit Union.
Welcome to Real Conversations. I'm Kayla Page. Thank you for joining us. This month, we're exploring the theme of reading between the lines and looking ahead to National Literacy Month. Reading and literacy are crucial for lifelong success, impacting things like graduation, career advancement, and even financial security. Poor literacy skills impact one's academic and social development and can lead to negative outcomes, making early intervention essential to bridge the achievement gap and build a stronger future for a community. Now, that brings me to our interviews. Tim Stinson spoke to Sam McCullum, Executive Director of STEAM on Wheels, and they discuss all the ways in which the idea of traditional literacy is changing.
Sam, thanks for joining us today on Real Conversations on QC.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, pleasure having you on. I've seen you out and about in the community and on TV, with us, with QC Live. And so I'm looking forward to this conversation. And Sam, as we know, this month is, National, Literacy Month. And first question I want to get into, talk to me about STEM in general, but then STEM on Wheels.
Yes.
Let's hear about that.
Yeah, so STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. But we actually focus on STEAM.
Okay.
We add the arts to it. The arts is a lost component in the schools. And we know that, hey, to be an engineer, to be a scientist, you have to have that creativity. So we encourage the arts. But yeah, that's what that's what we do. STEAM on Wheels.
Okay.
We provide the activities, hands-on activities to kids in all areas around the Quad Cities.
Okay, all the areas of Quad Cities and stuff. Now, we're in your location right now.
Yes.
Here in Rock Island. Talk to us about when this facility opened up here, and give us a little sense of what's going on here.
Yeah, so we bought the building in March of 2024. We had our open house in February of 2025, which we had outstanding numbers.
Mm-hmm.
The community showed us love. So we opened up our doors in February. Where we do drop-in sessions for kids 3rd through 8th grade, and then we do high school programming in the evening as well for freshman through senior year. And again, it's just to give these kids opportunities of learning about 3D printing, learning about virtual reality, coding, even just knowing how to use proper tools. So your hammers, your drills, screwdrivers, just getting familiar with what that looks like.
Right. How do you see the connection? Because, most people literacy, think about reading in the classroom, doing something like that. How do you see this connection?
Yeah, and so my way and my approach of literacy with the program that I have is understanding the material that's in front of you. Again, we know every student's not going to become an engineer, but did you understand that graph? Did you understand that concept that I was teaching you, these past 6 weeks? Because we do pre and post assessments. So we're able to track, are you comprehending the concepts that we're putting, in front of you all? So we really break down, can you understand what we're doing?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't do this alone.
No.
You have some volunteers. Let's talk about
Yeah, so we have 2 part-time staff. Shout out to them. They've been a huge instrument to making sure that we reach 1,000 kids a school year. Then we also have volunteers coming from John Deere, Kone, the YMCA. A lot of volunteers come from churches as well. And so just giving back their time, even teachers, all retired teachers come and give their time, and we appreciate that. And that's what makes this keep going.
Yeah. Keeps it rolling and stuff.
Yeah.
We know with schools just starting back, basically.
Correct.
I don't know where summer went, but I'm sure they're saying the same thing. Not like me. They're like, where did the summer go? But school's starting back. Kids are coming in. They've been coming to your program possibly. They've been doing some other things. They're getting back in the classroom. They're sitting down at the desk. Some of them might be checking out. I won't say bored, but I'm used to moving around and stuff. How do you, in what you're doing here, handle that?
Yeah, so everything is hands-on, and my approach of learning or teaching is to make sure that we don't do PowerPoints. It's okay, we go in, they're so curious of what those robots are and what, how can they build with the things in front of them. We just let them dive right in, and then once they stumble and get stopped at a certain point, now we bring it back in, and now we can explain, this is what this is what it does, and giving them that knowledge and that confidence of like, you can try it without even knowing what this is, but you also have an instructor that's going to guide you.
Okay.
And so we give them that guidance and break it down to them once they get to a roadblock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So do you find almost what you're saying, you know, because they're coming in, they're jumping right in,
Yeah.
using their hands, that kind of keeps that mind going and wondering.
Yes, it keeps
Yeah.
the mind wondering and going. And the thing is, there's never such thing as a silly question.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we always tell them, hey, if you don't ask, you won't know. And so we always encourage them to ask questions, ask for help. You're bigger than in the program, you know. And so understanding that is like key for these kids to understand.
Okay. Have you noticed with some of because you say you have high schoolers coming in,
Yeah.
they might be thinking a certain path to go, but they come through this and they're learning and, you know, they're like, aha, you know, I mean, do you see a lot of that happening where they're changing their path?
Oh, yeah.
Direction?
Yeah, and like I said, we're a neutral ground, so we're not pushing any kid to go into this, you know, to go into 4-year or even, you know, community college. But we also tell them about trades. You know, we know a lot of these kids aren't college ready, and they just want to make money. And so, okay, if you want to make money, I'll show you some skills that instead of just being on the assembly line, you could be a CNC operator, but you don't know what you don't know. So just giving them career options, telling them about career options, them even trying using virtual reality in a safe space, and trying welding, trying to be a dental assistant in a safe place without hurting anybody,
Yeah.
you know, and trying it out and say, oh, I think I want to go into this. And so I think that's the key thing that helps us elevate our program and helps these kids figuring out what they want to do after their senior year.
Okay. You talked earlier about, you know, individuals from Deere, other, you know, industries coming in, having that time with the kids and stuff. What do you look for in that when they're coming in?
Yeah, so it's a two-part to that. You know, first part is, okay, do you like just working with the kids? Do you want to just be a mentor and tell them your story as you helping them build some things? And then we also have that technical part where you're helping maintenance the 3D printers, you're helping build out sets of we want to eventually get into helping kids learn how to put up drywall. So you have to stage those things. And so having a handy person, you know, knowing how to use those tools is beneficial, instead of just always having a volunteer that just want to be working with the students.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk to the parents out there. Let's talk to teachers out there and the students themselves. What do you want to leave with them with, you know, what else do they need to know?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is confidence. I understand that, you know, you have to know how to problem solve. That's just not in financing. That's not just in engineering. Like you could take that with you wherever you go. Even if you buy a house, if you know how to fix a switch, you could save a lot of money. You know, and so we're really encouraging kids to just think critically. Slow down. You don't have to just throw it away. Just figure out what went wrong and then fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Slow down. A lot of times we're in a fast-paced society. You know, all of us, you know, kids, the adults and stuff, and we're just always moving. Sometimes it's just slowing down and then, you know, making it happen.
Yes.
Making it happen with that and stuff. How people that are listening to this want to be a part of it, they want to learn more information, you know, how can they contact you or, you know, website?
Yeah. So we have our Facebook, Instagram, we have our own website, steamonwheels.org. We'll be having some upcoming events. We'll be doing a Halloween theme. Well, it won't be Halloween. It'll just kind of be a fall theme project. Just welcoming the community to our space. We'll be, if you follow us on our social medias, you'll get to see all the upcoming, events that we'll have.
Okay.
But we do a lot of collaboration in the community. So we're partnering with the MLK Center, Young Lions Roar, the YWCA. So we are always in the community. We're always sharing our knowledge and just our cool gadgets and just getting the community involved in STEAM.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, so I think a lot of people are going to be encouraged, and when they go on site and learn a little bit more about STEAM on wheels, and this be excellent. But hey, appreciate the time.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah.
As for me, I sat down with Lachelle Guy. She's a social worker for Iowa's secondary level schools and has over 15 years of experience. Welcome, Lachelle. Thank you for joining me as we discuss in this segment how one's personal life can affect students' reading abilities. First off, you hear often that education in the educational space, that it starts at home. Being that you are a mom yourself, how would you say parental involvement can impact a child's desire to engage in reading?
It's definitely important. My son is 21 now, but I remember reading to him very early, even before he was born. So I think that plays a huge part in it. I don't think mothers and fathers realize how important it is to even start at that age. So, going to the library, we did that often. Just nighttime reading. We had a routine where every day before bed, every night before bedtime, he would have 2 or 3 books and, reading before bedtime, in the morning, after school. So it plays a huge role regarding what you do at home first, preparing them before they go to the school setting.
Absolutely. And then, so how would you say one's home life can affect their reading ability in particular?
Again, very important. Kids see a lot. Kids are like sponges. What they hear, what they listen to. So if they're listening to music, they're going to soak up that music, no matter what type and genre of music it is. So the more you read, the more you have books that are visible, the more, even magazines. I think literature in itself that's visible to the child. You never know. They can just come home, pick up a book off the table, and just read. I don't think we have enough books in our spaces anymore because they're so apt to grab a phone and Google something or, at their fingertips. And it's dangerous even at a young age because you don't know what kids are tapping into just at the push of a fingertip. But I think the more visible that you have literature at home, the more apt and more likely you'll see kids being willing to pick up a book when they come to school.
Absolutely. You got to touch on 2 good points there as well in terms of the dangerousness of it as well. How important is it as well to not only be reading at home, but on grade level as well? Does that play a factor into things?
It's definitely a factor. I remember when my son was younger, I not only read books to him at grade level or his age level, definitely made sure that it was appropriate, but we also read above his level. So if he was at preschool, we're probably reading books that were kindergarten and 1st grade. He read very early. So I think just a lot of that introductory to reading at an early age is very, very important.
Absolutely. Now, in your work as a social worker, how would you say, or do you say, that parental involvement, do you see a correlation between parental involvement and literacy rates in your day-to-day?
Definitely. I work at the secondary level. And so junior high and high school students, or middle school and high school, depending on what district I'm in, our students' rates at that level, some of them are very, very low. It's not surprising for me to have to evaluate a student and they are reading. They're maybe a 6th or 7th grader and they're reading at the 2nd grade level. High school students I've had to assess before and they're reading at the 4th and 5th grade level. And so I always say that literacy starts at home. It also starts in the community. So what we expose our kids to in the community is very, very important. Of course, when they come to the classroom, when they come to the schools, that's their responsibility while they're in school. But what are we doing when they're back at home? Mm-hmm. So when they're with, parents at home or siblings or cousins, community members, where they're involved in after school programs, those are very, very much important as well. But we want to make sure, if at all possible, because parents, we're all busy and I understand that, I've been there. But we want to make sure that the accountability is on us as well before we allow them to enter into the public school, private school sector. Because it is ultimately does kind of fall back on us as well.
Absolutely. And I didn't even think about that point there as well. You touched on, again, it starts at home. How does it impact when you see your interactions with teachers? What does that then look like when you are dealing with somebody, you assess them and they're behind that level? Then what happens in the classroom? What do you do? How do you compensate for that at that point?
We have to meet them where they are. And I want to go back because sometimes I always want to make sure that I mention that there are some parents who cannot read. And so if they can't, then what? So we have to meet those parents where they are as well. Not every parent is equipped with the education to provide reading resources, to read to their child at a certain level before bedtime, in the morning, so forth and so on. So I want to make sure that I do mention that because not every parent is literate. Not every parent has the best experience for public schools or private schools in general. So they may have had a bad experience as kids. And so even upon entering the school building, there's a barrier there. So because I had a negative experience, then my child may have or I may push down my attitude on my experience as a child to them. So it's already a barrier there. So we have to figure out a way to meet those parents where they are, because we just can't assume that they know how to read. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So if they don't, we need to figure that out. So how are we going to bridge that gap? So in those instances, we may have to do more as educators. I say that teachers, and some teachers don't like it, but I'm also in a position where I'm just not a social worker. I have to be a teacher at times. I have to be a babysitter at times. Teachers have to be social workers at times. We wear many different hats. And so although I went into this profession as a social worker, I wear so many hats when I'm in the school building. So if we have a student who's at a fourth grade level, who's at the high school level, teachers and I had to communicate. We had to say, hey, what is, and in that instance, we had to decide whether or not they qualify for an IEP, individual education plan. And then at that time, we have to set goals accordingly. So how are they going to reach this math goal? How are they going to reach this reading and writing goal and so forth? Speech, it could be occupational therapy, whatever whichever goal that best fits their need at that time. So communication with teachers is very important. I have to make sure that we're a team, which includes the parents and the students and whoever else is centered around that whole child, to make sure that those goals are set accordingly and that those it's realistic, it's attainable, and we have to make sure that we're working together as a team to provide them the best resources and the best services that we can to make them successful.
100%. And then, again, it takes a village, of course. And something else you mentioned there in particular, not only just, again, reading appropriate and on grade level or above grade level, that is, but then also knowing a child's learning style and ability. How does that impact or make a difference, too? And it's like, 'cause I think some parents, maybe you are reading at home, but it's not on grade level, it's not appropriate, or it's just not how your child needs to learn. So when it comes to, of course, your auditory, you have people who just need pictures to kind of lay it out. What does that kind of do as well when it comes to literacy as well? Whether it's hearing a book, whether it's pictures, what kind of take do you have on that?
So there's we have auditory listeners, we have auditory readers, we have not every student is alike. And so we're meeting them where they are. We're making accommodations for them. So what's the best way that you can learn? What motivates you to learn? Do you need earphones? Do you need extra time to do your assignment? Do you need, when it's time to take a test, you need to be in a setting alternative from the classroom? So do you need a smaller space? Do you need a quieter space? So we want to make sure that we are meeting those students' needs. Even, there could be a second grader who is performing at grade level. However, noise affects their learning. And so they may need those headphones. Typical, and I don't say normal. I hate using that word normal. A normal student, we like to use the word typical student, or performing at a typical grade level, or seventh grade or 7-year-old. So we always want to keep those in consideration. But accommodations are very, very important to every learner. So we just want to see how do they best learn? How do they, what motivates them? What things can we put in place? What's an incentive that we can put in place? So if you're able to do this, you can have more free time, or you can not have to do an assignment, or we can shorten your assignment. So we want to make sure that we're always setting up our students to be successful, and we want them to succeed.
Absolutely. And then, so how do experiences with discrimination, racism, socioeconomic status, or even, again, you kind of touched on it a little bit there as well, their home literacy environment impact the students' motivation to engage with reading?
Huge. We know that representation matters. We also know that there are educators and there are people in the school environment who have biases, who have attitudes towards students of color. I think that the more people that we put that are visible around these students who are Black, white, Hispanic, other different ethnicities, they look like them. I think all of that matters. I think when you have the right educator, also, whether they're of a different ethnicity, we want to make sure that those teachers care about those students. We want to make sure that the right educators are in front of those students, especially for the kids and parents who have not had the best experience. So how are you going to make my child feel like they are in the right hands? When I drop them off to you from 8 to 3, I feel fine. I feel safe. I feel comfortable. And we want them to feel the same when I leave them there. It's time to pick them up.
Now, you've been a school social worker for almost 15 years, working in Iowa schools at the secondary level, as you said, junior high and high school. What are you seeing even in that age group in particular, high school, which you kind of touched on as well, regarding literacy levels? Would you say that trends are looking higher or lower in terms of growth in their literacy rates?
I think it depends and it varies from school district to school district. Overall, we'd like to see students to achieve at higher levels. There's so many different factors that come into play, like when you mentioned the home life, the education level of the parents. How soon are these kids being evaluated? We have students who are being evaluated in high school. So then we think back, how come they weren't evaluated in elementary, or what happened in early preschool or stuff like that. So we don't want them to get too far into their educational career and they're overlooked. They're passed through the system. That happens a lot, and it's very unfortunate. We don't want to see higher numbers of students of color being evaluated, being passed through the system, because we know that statistics show that there are more kids who, the higher dropout rates for African American students, particularly African American males. We also know that when students are identified as having a behavior issue or concern, that behavior issue or concern may stay with them for the rest of their educational career, and they're labeled. We definitely don't want that for our students, any student for that matter, but we have to be very mindful of the statistic rates when it comes to students of color and how often they are labeled, both from behavior and academic. And again, I think the connections that we make in the community, the connections that we make with the parents are very, very personable. We have their best interests at heart, and we're welcoming each building with open arms to every parent. Again, we don't know where these parents are coming from. We don't know what their childhood experiences are. And we also know that many people and our students come to schools with many different forms of trauma. So that's something that we definitely have to address too. And it depends. It's so many different factors, but we want them all to achieve at a higher level. And literacy is the key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, so what signs do you look for that indicate personal stressors that are interfering with academic performance? So I think we kind of touched on it as well. Just again, that discrimination, racism, socioeconomic status. Is there anything else that can contribute to that lack thereof?
Sleep is very important. A lot of our students are not getting sleep, K through 12. That's we like to consider and think about the ages, of course, at the K through 6 level and maybe K through 8, I will go to 8th grade. We like to consider parents that we have a little bit more control over their sleep patterns and, what time they're going to bed. That may not necessarily be the case, because we may have kids who are growing up in homes where parents work third shift and they can get up at all hours of the night. They may have to take care of themselves. There are latchkey students where they're coming home and they're the only ones there. They have to take care of siblings. And that's a true factor. We have a lot of our kids who are being raised by single household families, and they have to come home and take care of their younger siblings. Many of our kids are not eating. That's a huge factor. And the safest place and the best place for them to be during the school day is in the school building. And that may or may not be their only meal that they have for the day. So they may be eating breakfast there and lunch and a snack. But when they go home, based off so many different factors, whether the income isn't there, the parents are there, it's instability. There's so many different factors that come into play when our kids are in the school building. So eating and sleeping or lack of, again, looking at kids and their different backgrounds, where they're coming from, what's the history that's going on at home. So when they leave our school, we want to know what's happening behind closed doors. Many times we don't. So finding out what's going on in the home. I used to be a home visitor, and that was my passion, because that's where you find out what is really going on with Tamika when she goes home. You know what I mean? So that's firsthand what you see. Well, the reason why she's coming to school is because the house looks like this. Mom is doing this, dad is doing this, siblings, and it's chaotic. And not only that, we look at signs of trauma. So they're coming into school not being fed, being clothed correctly, but then there's also signs of violence. There's also signs of community activity, whether it be gang violence or what have you around the community. All those impact the students' learning, and whether or not we want to admit it, they internalize that. They bring those things to school. I've had several students who have witnessed their parents or close loved ones being murdered in front of them. So why would we expect them to come to school to learn?
And want to read a book.
That's the last thing that's on their mind. So a lot of our kids come to school with different forms of trauma.
Absolutely.
So just other signs to look out for.
Finally, just what tips would you give other parents out there when it comes to creating an environment of supporting their child's literacy growth? Whether that be, again, a parent who is literate or a parent who's not. What are those overall tips that you would just give, just as a final message to people when it comes to getting their child more literate and engaged in reading and books and things?
Parent groups are very important, whether that be in the community, the school. It's a support network. And I think the more that we have parents who are for parents who care about learning and growth at every age, including, parents supporting each other, I think that those are the keys to, and again, it goes back to support. It goes back to community engagement. I think the more that we have parents who are supporting each other, who are very supportive of their kids, being successful, even passing along information from one parent to the other parent. Hey, this is a good resource. How about you check it out? Or there's a parental group that supports single parents, or there's another group that supports moms of who work, working kids or something,
right.
Whether it be something made up or whether it's something that's already established where you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think just the more that we have engagement, and sometimes it's going to take us as educators to go outside in the community, knock on doors. Those are things that my mother used to do and her friends used to do back in the day. We want these parents to be involved, so we got to go get them. We have to go find them. We have to find them and bring them into the school building or wherever else we choose to meet. But again, some of that is going to come back on educators too. You know what? These kids are from this area. I'm going to go out. I have to find them. I need them in our building. We need those parents in this building. So we have to go meet those parents where they are too. Right. And so just the support, there may be a parent who doesn't have books at their home. I'm willing to give you the books that I share and I read to my kids, if you're willing to accept it. So just being accepting, having an open mind, having an open heart, and just being willing to extend that hand. You know what I mean? So all that I think is very important.
Absolutely. Wonderful, great tips there, of course. And again, just that representation, that factor in just starting at home. That's all very important.
And I still think that we should take advantage of libraries. Libraries are here for a reason.
I had a library card.
I had my great nephew a couple weeks ago, and he loves the library. Went to 2 libraries, went to a mobile library. I don't know if you all remember. Did you guys have mobile libraries?
It's like when they drive around.
Yes. I mean, that's so exciting. And he was so excited. But the fact is, libraries are here for a reason. There are books inside of libraries. There are magazines inside of libraries. I don't even know, are encyclopedias still a thing? We had encyclopedias, but It's there. Kids don't know any different
I look
unless
forward
you
to my
tell them
book fair
different.
money specifically for that day.
Yes, the book fairs. Kids don't know any different until you introduce something different to them. But if they see this from an early age, why wouldn't they be more attracted to it? Why wouldn't they want to still go after it? You know, if you are learning from preschool to kindergarten and then now you're a college student, where did it start?
Great. Absolutely.
The earlier, the better.
Yep. Perfect. Well said. Couldn't say very myself. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Jasmine Butler brings us to real time in the QCA and had a conversation with Reagan Baker, the Student Success Director with United Way Quad Cities, and talked about how organizations like United Way are combating reading and literacy struggles in Quad City schools.
Thank you for joining me today, Reagan. So back in February, we spoke about literacy programs like Ready by 5 and the efforts in Black community. So today we're just checking in on progress as our families are already preparing. Some of them have been in school, but already preparing to be back in school and informing them of what's ahead for families here, right here in the Quad Cities. So are there any existing milestones or success stories in Ready by 5 or the early childhood initiatives that you can share with me and our viewers today?
Absolutely. So we have Ready by 5, as you mentioned, and it's a parent workshop where we had 211 participants sign up last year, and that's been amazing. 16 different workshops. We offer virtual and in person. We had an 80% graduation rate. That's absolutely amazing for our families, for our parents. This year, we're actually going to be hosting 8 workshops, and 3 of those workshops will be at our United for School sites, so that we're really making sure to just meet the needs for our families and make sure that they have full access to that. One of the things that we really heard back from parents was like they didn't understand the importance of just slowing down, having a conversation with your child, explaining things like, the kid always asks, why? Like, why, mommy? Why, daddy? Well, because kids are curious, and that's helping them to develop their brain by age 5. It's helping them to understand like the world, and also understanding that anything could be a learning opportunity when you're at home. I mentioned last time, like counting the steps. Is there steps in your home? Talking with your child, reading a book before bedtime. These are just simple ways that, you can really engage your child, but also make sure that they're on track for kindergarten.
I love it.
Yeah.
So the 80% graduation rate, huge.
It is. It's amazing. So we're really hoping to just continue to increase that number year after year.
Yes, that's amazing. And then you also mentioned some of the feedback that you got from parents were just slowing down and just that's hard. That is hard. So the fact that that was something that they had taken away from last year means that you guys are doing what you're supposed to do in these schools.
Absolutely.
So good job.
Thank you.
Good job for you guys. So what progress has been made in literacy programs since February?
Well, we have great success. We have had great success this past year, especially with our Read United program. Our Read United program really partners volunteers with kids in schools in grades K through 3rd to really make sure that our kids are on track for grade level reading by 3rd grade. And so this year, we've seen great success. We've seen 65% of those that participated improve their reading scores. 37% are now proficient. And then an added bonus, we had 33% actually improve their attendance, which is really one of our initiatives with United for Schools, is making sure that kids are getting to school. Because if they're not in school, then we can't improve those grading scores or those reading scores. So we're really excited about just what we've seen so far. We know that when you just invest 30 minutes a week, that makes all the differences to those outcomes.
That's amazing. I know one of our real conversation topics of this year was the attendance here in the Quad Cities. So a 33% attendance increase.
Yes, with those that had a Read United buddy. And I think it's just so important that, just those 30 minutes a week, what that means for a child, especially for a child that might be struggling with reading or might just are excited to meet that, trusted adult.
So do you think that more kids were prone and more excited to come to school because of the relationship that they had?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We think it's like, a double, it's a double whammy. Like it's, not only are they learning and like growing in their reading and literacy, but they're also being able to be mentored by someone that truly cares for them, wants to check in with them. Sometimes they bring them lunch. So it's just an opportunity to really just engage the community into what's happening in the school.
And something for them to look forward to.
Absolutely.
I love
Yes.
it. So how has United Way further addressed literacy gaps in our Black community community here in the Quad Cities?
Well, absolutely. So as I mentioned back in February, our demographics, 60%, nearly 60% of our students are African American. And when you think about that, and how can we, partner those students up to make sure that they're on grade level reading, make sure that they have what they need, and make sure that when they're reading a book, it looks like them. And so one of the things that we did was we partnered with the Quad City Black Collectives authors, which are local and native Quad City Black authors that have wrote children's books that really are going to be beneficial to our students that are reading those books and saying, wow, that person has skin like mine, or that person's a future doctor or a lawyer. And so it's just really nice to be able to, tie those two things together and really make sure that we're making a collective and make sure that we're serving these students to the next level. How can we make sure that when they open up that book, they're excited, they're ignited about reading. And so we really were just excited to be able to collaborate with the Black authors in the Quad Cities.
Yeah, that was a really great event. I was there, and it was so amazing to see so many kids walk away with books.
Yes,
yeah.
So many amazing books. So we're just really excited that we have the opportunity to partner with them this year.
That's great. Can you update us on any new partnerships and partnerships launched since our last conversations?
Yeah, so one of the ways that we're again trying to assess the needs of our United for School sites is we know that mentorship is a need across all of our United for School sites, and one of the things that we're doing is collaborating with Big Brothers Big Sisters to say, how can we ignite the community to become a mentor, become a big brother, big sister for a kid. Like, I know that makes all the difference. Just as you see those numbers with those Read United volunteers, imagine what that can do with some of our older kids, because Read United is for K through third grade, and this kind of picks up where that fourth and fifth grade sometimes there's a gap there. So we're just really excited to see what that looks like, and we're hoping that we can make sure that our students can, have a mentor that they look forward to, and hopefully that transcends to coming to school more, behaviors, changing for the better, and even course performance.
Yeah, that's great. And so basically how that would look like is they would have a you from kindergarten to third grade, right? And then still have that big brother or big sister. And then that big brother or big sister, the goal is to follow them from however long, right?
However long, because, with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, sometimes they're lifetime mentors, and they're able to track those students from fourth grade, maybe all the way to high school graduation. And so how impactful would that be to have that continued support?
Yeah, that's great. I love that you guys partnered with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. That's a huge win for United Way. Congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
Are there any innovative strategies or pilot programs currently underway?
Well, as you know, with our United for Schools initiative, we our national partner is Communities in Schools, and so we're always working with them to figure out how can we best stay on trend, what's happening in the schools, how can we make sure our site coordinators are having what they need. We're also always finding ways to collaborate with our funded partners that also have shared goals and collective impact that we can make amongst all of our sites. So we're really just looking at how can we make sure that not only are we making impacts in our schools, but how can that transcend to our neighborhood as well?
Yeah. What progress has been made on school expansions mentioned earlier this year?
Well, yes, as you know, we expanded to Jefferson, where we're at today. We expanded to Rock Island Academy, and then also Wells and East Moline.
Okay.
And we've seen great success so far. Our site coordinator has worked with one-on-one with students, and they had high chronic absenteeism, and that means that they've missed 10% or more of the school year. So that translates to 18 days or more. But this group of students, there was about 13 students that site coordinator was working with, had a combined absences of 250, and they were able to decrease that by 30%. So that just goes to show that relationships matter. Our site coordinators are building those relationships, really making sure that those students can have someone they can look forward to, they can trust. But we know it's a collaborative effort. We know it wasn't just our site coordinator putting in that work. It was the principal. It was our school districts. It was those collaborative teams at the school that really try their best to make sure to move those efforts forward.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Right.
And again, kudos to you guys for building that foundation, that relationship, because yes, it does take a village, but you guys laid that foundation and made the kids have a strong interest of, wanting to come, wanting to be involved. So
Absolutely.
that's great.
Yep. It makes all the difference. So.
How are these expansions translating to tangible community impact?
Well, definitely, whenever you expand, and you're not only just expanding to schools, you're expanding to neighborhoods, you're expanding efforts and supports to those families. And so when I think about, our United for School sites, I think that these are hubs. Our areas are education, literacy, income and health. And so when you are planting those additional resources into those neighborhoods, like it's going to change the trajectory of what that's going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So that expansion has really allowed us to really dive in deeper into the needs of the community, and it has allowed us to even further our reach, because now we're able to reach 2,000 students, versus when we were just at the 2 schools. So it's just been amazing to see the impacts we've been able to make, and we're just really excited to be at the school this year, a full year, from August to the end of this year.
For parents, caregivers, and community members, what's the best way to support children's literacy at home?
Absolutely. Definitely visit United Way Quad Cities, QC.org. And you can find out, upcoming Ready by 5 sessions. You can see, like I mentioned earlier, there will be 3 at our United for Schools locations. You can definitely stop in at any of those United for Schools locations and talk to one of our site coordinators. Find out how you can get connected, how you can make sure that your child is not only ready for kindergarten, but they're ready to succeed in all of their academic, career. Another way is just to stay connected on our social media page. We're always posting there, upcoming events, and just stay connected with us, through our platforms in that way.
That's great that they have so many ways to reach you,
Right.
you and your peers. But again, if they're not social media savvy, again, come straight into the school.
Yes. And that's what's nice about this initiative. It's site based. That's the whole point. Is we want to make sure that our parents can come in and get what they need. They don't have to go search outside the school building to get their needs met. And so just come to the building and we'll make sure you're connected.
Yes. So I know you said that you guys got a busy year this year. Any upcoming events, volunteer opportunities, or new resources for families to get involved that you want to share with our viewers?
Yes, absolutely. Like I mentioned before, we're collaborating with Big Brothers Big Sisters. So if you're interested in becoming a mentor, definitely reach out. You can go to their website and find how to sign up to become a mentor. You can sign up to be a Read United volunteer. I know you had mentioned that you have volunteered with Read United 30 minutes a week. It doesn't take much, and you've seen the outcomes that we've been able to reach. And so by signing up to become a Read United, you're also a Read United volunteer. You're helping us with our 2030 goal, which is to reach 80% of third graders will be on track for grade level reading by 3rd grade. Currently, we're at 56%. We need your help. So come out, show out, and really be that positive light for our students, and you can really help us all to reach those goals.
It's so simple. And again, just to kind of reiterate, yes, when I volunteered, it took 20 minutes out my day to just go read to a group of students, and they were really engaged. Like they loved, like, who is this lady? Like, but they, they loved it. They loved it. So yes, to our viewers, if you have time, go do it.
Volunteer.
Yes. And then what's that goal for 2030 again?
80%. So we're at 56% right now. So we need your help to get us there. And like, again, 30 minutes a week doesn't take much.
Yes. Yes. Reagan, thank you so much for all that you do in the community, United Way, everything. Thank you so much.
No problem.
And I look forward, and I look forward to chatting with you again for another follow-up.
Yes. Can't wait. Thank you.
And last but not least, she's a new face to our contributor panel with Real Conversations, but certainly not new to the TV screens of many at home. Teresa Bryant sat down with CJ Parker to discuss alternate forms of literacy and expression through things like music and poetry.
CJ Parker.
Yes.
It is a pleasure to meet you.
Absolutely. You as well. You're amazing.
Well, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Grew up in the Quad Cities. I'm a musician now. I feel like I've been a musician all my life. The word musician has multiple connotations.
Oh,
it
yes.
could mean I'm a singer or an artist or a producer, or I play a bunch of instruments. I say that I'm like that whole thing. So I just say musician now.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of my thing. Grew up doing music all my life, and so yeah.
What got you interested in music?
From a young age, church. My dad's a pastor, and at the time he was a minister in the area, and I grew up learning from some very expert figures in the music world in church. The organ players, the drummers, the guitar players, or whatever. So, and my dad was also the choir director, so I learned 3-part harmony at a really young age. And my mom was a singer, so I learned how to sing at 2 years old and was singing West Side Story when I was a kid. So music kind of started, I didn't have a choice. It was kind of those things. If you grow up in LeBron James' household, then you're probably going to be a basketball player. That was kind of me with music, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about when you talk about, growing up in the church and being musically inclined within the church. I'm Second Baptist Church of
Yes,
Merced girl,
absolutely,
And
yes.
so, you see all of these people who are just excellent musicians,
Yes.
excellent organ players,
Yes.
piano players, guitar players, singers,
Mm-hmm.
who will never be on a national or international stage,
Right.
but they are professional in every way.
Yeah.
Was that sort of what got you started? What put you into this position now?
Yeah, I feel like it was inevitable because my ears were always surrounded with it, whether it was a choir rehearsal, whether it was a service. And then, because my dad was the choir director, I had the chance to sit behind the drummer and sit behind the organ and watch them do what they do. And church itself is we say it's the best music school in the world because you learn from people who do it their entire lives, and they do it to give God glory. And so we feel like that's the best weapon ever. And to see that at a young age is what kind of fueled me to try it out myself, So being around musicians like that, then there's so many, I can name like so many around here in this area, but they really helped me become who I am.
Okay, the topic for this month is literacy, and there are different types of literacy, especially in music,
Yeah.
because that's a voice people use to communicate as well.
Absolutely.
Why do you think that's such an important subject for
Yeah, well, I'm a teacher, and so I always ask my kids the first day, which is actually funny enough, today is my first day as a band director at Rivermont Collegiate. And so the first question I'm gonna ask them, and what I ask a lot of kids is, raise your hand if you like music. And most of them will raise their hand. There's always one or two kids like, I don't like music. And I go, you don't like music? And they're like, no, I don't even like it. And I was like, okay, before you continue, who's your favorite artist? And they'll name me 4 rappers. They'll name me a whole bunch of stuff. I'm like, oh, so you do like music? And all the kids are like, ooh. And it always happens like that. But I think music is probably the most intricate language and most important language in our society. Music has a way of being transcended throughout each language. There's people that I performed with before that are from the United Kingdom, that are from China, that are from different places, and we all can play the same thing, and we all can read the same music. We all can listen to the same music and get the same feel. So it's really important. And if you don't have music like a part of your life, like if you're not like getting in your car and turning on music, I think you probably have a little weird life. Like, I think it's very a silent, weird life. I don't know of anybody that does that. You can listen to your podcasts and stuff, but even podcasts have music. Right. There's music everywhere, whether you're watching a TV show, whether you're watching a movie, there has to be music. So I think it's the best language. I guess I'm biased, though.
Now, you said that you're teaching at Rivermont Collegiate.
Yes.
And you're talking about teaching kids.
Yes.
What is it that kids know and come into music with a sort of special idea or gift or how do you teach a child?
Yeah. So I think the best thing to learn, and the thing to learn for educators as well, is every kid thinks differently. We know this when we teach kids language arts. We know this when we teach kids reading and things like that. But when it comes to music, we expect them to be in a bottle. And that's something that I want to help break. Every kid thinks differently about music. And there may be some times where they're listening to artists that you may not have heard of, but you need to cater towards what they like rather than what you think they should like. You know, I think that's really important for me being a band director. There's things that you have to learn. There's a foundation that you absolutely do have to learn. But when it comes down to it, if a kid loves doing something, then we need to cater towards them doing that thing. And music is, like I said, a universal language. There's so many different connotations. There's so many different ways we interpret music. There's jazz, there's blues, there's rock, there's soul, there's funk, there's R&B. But in the grand scheme of things, music is music. And we all speak differently. I think when kids come into class, and I ask them who your favorite artist is, they name an artist, some kids go, ooh, or some kids go, that's trash, right? But I think that's the beauty of it. We like what we like, and that's the first recognition for a child of, oh, I prefer this.
Right.
And it's, you know, the first thing that they prefer is probably a snack or something like that, but then they're like, I don't like this music and I like this music. This is the first thing one of the first things that we see of kids deciding and kids doing something for themselves. So I think it's really important to cater to what they like to do rather than what we think we should input on them.
You know, when I was a kid, I took violin lessons for 7 years.
Okay, all right.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
I had a good time doing it. Didn't like practicing all the time.
Right.
But I eventually got to a point where I joined a youth orchestra.
Sure.
And I quit. I realized that I was never going to be as good as the people around me who wanted to do this as a profession.
Sure.
Who wanted to do this as a job and who were much more dedicated about practice and about doing this.
Sure.
Do you ever run into any of that with the people that you teach?
Absolutely. I can tell you, as someone who was also a part of ensembles and growing up and doing music and things like that, you see people that work harder because they want to be better at it. I think you see it in any sport or anything. You always see some people that are like, oh, they're really good at it. I don't know if I can get to that level. That's where we have to meet the kid where they're at. That's where we have to go, okay, what can I do to make your experience better? A lot of times educators can be focused on winning, being the best that their ensemble can be. And then in that, you start to lose children because they're like, oh, well, I don't know. I might not be working hard as them, or I don't know if I can match up to what they're doing. That's when we have to meet the kid where they are and go, hey, what makes you excited about music? You know, and that's where we get back to the cater to them thing. That's really important. Before a kid who's might not be sure about if they want to continue whatever, there are other avenues. Absolutely. There is theater, there's drama, there is choir, there's show choirs big around this area. Right. Like, there are other ways that you can get into music. And I think if your educator is making you feel a certain way, if you're going and doing these other things, then we have to reevaluate our educators. That's what I'm looking to start to change as well. But yeah.
You know, music has played a huge role in the American songbook.
Absolutely.
But also, when you think about American music, you think about the Black influences
Yes.
in all different aspects
Yes.
of American music.
Yes.
How do you teach that?
So another cool thing is here where we are, we're at Common Chord right now.
Yeah.
And what we teach a lot about is blues and the foundation of blues. And we were just talking about sinners and stuff like that.
Right,
But
yeah.
the foundation of blues comes from Black music, comes from Negro spirituals. It comes from the call and response and the anguish and pain and the communication. And that is something that I think is more important to talk about than a popular artist right now. We need to make sure that the foundation is set and that the kids know where this music comes from. Because if we're talking about, you know, the American Revolution, if we're talking about World War II, I know in school, we know those pinpoints. We can tell you how World War II started. We can talk to you about Archduke Franz Ferdinand. We
Yeah.
can talk about all those things. But when we get to blues music, where we get to certain types of music, we only talk about what's going on now and not what started it.
Yeah.
And I think Black music has a lot to do with the foundation, not only what I'm talking about blues, but country, R&B, jazz, funk, gospel, all that stuff starts with Black people.
And yeah, I think there are a lot of kids out there who have no idea who Big Mama Thornton is.
Yeah, right.
But once they hear that, and
Yes.
I've seen this happen, they realize, oh my goodness, who is that?
Absolutely.
And they want to know more.
Absolutely.
And they want to hear more.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
I'm sure that's something that you pass along to your students.
Absolutely, especially in the grand scheme of there's a thing that we like call samples,
Yeah.
where artists now are sampling what artists were doing before, and they'll be like, "Oh, I love this song. Like, I love what they're doing in this song," and we go, "That's actually from that. That's actually from Etta James. That's actually from Stevie Wonder. That's actually from Michael Jackson in the '60s." And they go, "Oh, okay." So that's another thing that we sort of run into that we love to talk about as well.
When we talk about music, we talk about its effects on people's emotions, but there are also cognitive effects.
Sure.
There are also effects, when people are teaching, when they are learning, when that help them along the way. Through high school, through college.
Right.
How do you impart the importance of that to your students?
I think it's really important to understand when we're talking about music, I think it's as important as talking about math. I think it's as important as talking about history, because it is history, as we've talked about. Like I said, kids morph into what they want to understand, what they want to learn, and in the end, when you go to college, you pick what you want to learn. You pick what you want to be, what you're good at, and what you want to excel at. And at the end of the day, I feel like music is going to be a part of whatever you're going to do.
Exactly.
Any capacity, it's going to be a part of it. So why not embrace it? Why not take the time? Hey, I'm going to try out some new music, because music can also change your mood. It can change how you're feeling when you wind down after the day. You're going to turn on some music. Okay, I need to clean my house. I'm going to turn this on, or I'm going to do some homework. I'm going to turn this on. Things to help focus you. I think it's like the best. I don't want to say drug, but music is definitely the best thing. Influence, for sure. Absolutely.
What do you think is the future of music?
Oh, we could go two different ways.
That's way too
I know, we could,
broad a question.
So no, it's. I think the future of music has. I'm different. Like you said, I have a positive outlook on it. I think music is going to become better than we've ever thought. It's starting right now, where the things that are being produced and put out not only are being sampled, but they're being recreated in a way that the young person can understand and resonate with. I think words are more important than beats, and the words that are being written right now have a negative connotation, especially when we go to the rappers and things like that. Those words have a negative connotation, which leads to a negative society. Music is powerful. We've been talking about this the whole time. Music is the universal language. So when that universal language is negative, then what do we expect our outcome to be? So I think we're shifting to a more positive era. We want to dance more. We want to move more. We want to sing more. This TikTok era has changed music as well, to where people want to record themselves singing to a song. And I think that is changing the outlook of society, to where everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to smile. I think there's an innocence in, I feel, the upcoming era. In music, there's going to be an innocence to where people are going to want to go, I love this music. I just want to dance and I just want to have fun. Because my parents always talked about the older eras, like the 70s and 80s, and how people were just dancing. Dancing and having a good time, listening to music,
Watching the Soul Train.
Yeah, Soul Train, and just doing the Soul Train line and just having a good time and embracing the music that was being played. And it's kind of shifted into an era where we're listening to hear negativity.
Grittier.
Yeah, very, very more, because that's the time we're in. That's the time we were in, especially when COVID hit. The music that was in COVID, like, go back and listen to some of the stuff that was released in 2020. Everybody was sad. Everybody. There was not a single everyone was like, what is going on? How are we going to get through this? And I think we've passed that era. We're now in 2025, and I feel like we want to be happy again. So the music that's going to be created for the next generation is going to be not only excellent because the technology in the right way is being used very well, in the right way, because there's also AI, and it scares me. It really does scare me. But I think this next era is going to be a really accomplished group of people, really accomplished musicianship, and I think that language is just going to get stronger and stronger.
CJ Parker, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching this episode of Real Conversations in the QC, brought to you in partnership by TNBC at the Lincoln Center. We look forward to seeing you again next month.
Real Conversations in the QC is sponsored by Accentra Credit Union.